Hey, we're back. Podcast, all that stuff. Um, there's a few things. I guess there's the blue eye structure. Uh, and we're gonna talk about what we learned about Trooper and some of the other formats while we've been playing everything. Because we've been playing a lot of Trooper and Hat. So we're gonna tell some of the experience of what we learned during that. And but for anyone curious, how was your day, Stefan?
It was okay. My coworker was late.
Mm.
So get this. So she locked her keys. Her day was awful, and she probably should have just stayed home. But I said thank you for showing up anyways, because she locked her keys in her car with it still on.
Oh.
I didn't wake up soon enough, or else I would have called someone and said, "Give me a ride over to her place. I have the setup to be able to get into her car for her." So she had to call someone and have it done. And I went, "Wait a minute." I'm like, "You used to you did the nursing stuff before, yeah?" And I'm like, "You have a blood pressure cuff?" She's like, and she paused and she went, "Oh gosh darn it, that is a blood pressure cuff, basically, that they were using to get that door open." And of course I went, "Yeah. I
Mm.
mean, I'm not going to explain how to get into a vehicle, but it just takes a stick and a blood pressure cuff.
I know how to get into
Educational
I
purposes."
know how to get into a into a vehicle.
Yeah,
My
yeah, without breaking a window or anything. But
yeah,
and it was just that awful of a morning for her. So it's weird when you put it in perspective
I
how the
learned
different varying days are.
I got to learn how because one time when I was with my mom, she locked her keys out of the car, so she unscrewed her car antenna and everything and just bent it and did it that way.
Oh, I didn't even think about it because you could bend it and just get it into a place and then
Yep.
just I'll have to remember that one because people always lock their cars
Mm.
or lock their keys in their cars where I work. It's happened at least on property that I know of at least 3 or 4 times where people ask me, "Hey, Stefan, you know how to break into cars?" And I go, "Yeah, I don't have my kit." And no, we're not going to go get my kit to do that because, yeah, no, I don't like you. A
uh,
lot of times I really just don't want to do that inconvenience because if I damage it, then there's just all that drama. Now, if it's someone I like, look, this could do this,
mm.
you know.
I
I am not bonded for locksmithy yet.
I rode to the my day was okay. I rode to the dentist office with my nephew and got him
Oh, that
all.
sounds fun.
It's not.
I know it's not. I'm being facetious.
uh, and then I came home and cooked dinner for everyone. That was my day. Uh,
I'm really scared because the rubber band hasn't snapped back yet.
but I guess we'll talk about Yu-Gi-Oh now. Um,
Yeah. Oh, we went and opened some pre-release packs too, didn't we?
we did, and oh, it was so funny. Stefan,
So I know we can't really see it, but
yeah,
yeah, that.
Stefan opened a QCR of Lacrima, and I didn't open up anything crazy, but I said I'm gonna rip up your QCR, and I grabbed his pile, sleight of hand, put a common in front, and just ripped the common. And the look on our friend who drove us, his face was priceless. He nearly had like a heart attack that because I ripped it so fast too.
It
There,
was really slick, because one of two things went through my head. One, I'm gonna yell at you because you didn't get a camera out and you just tore up a card that we could have posted it getting torn up.
mm,
And two, I was like, nah, he sleight of handed it. But it was really hard for me to catch it, by the way. That was a smooth transition.
yeah.
Like,
So
yeah.
for example, we'll do it this way. So this is let's say this is a stack of cards. I literally went and just went like that. It was so
It was
fast.
it was even smoother because you just
Mm. This this card actually had some give to it, so for some reason.
It was so weird, yeah.
But yeah, it was so fast, and yeah, everyone else was a little bit like, huh, too, apparently. But then they saw, but the people that were with us saw quickly that I ripped up a common. But yeah, that was fun. We didn't get to play in the premiere sneak event, like sneak peek or whatever. We were like a little late, and the rules said that if you're late, you just get the packs. You can't win the matter play. So we
Yeah.
we played like a few games at it, like just with each other and everything like that. But like we didn't get to play in the tournament itself. But it was,
Tournament didn't look that fun, anyways.
yeah. I guarantee you. Or I saw what people were playing. Um, I think that you could have probably won. There was a like there's like there's like two people. I think the person in like first and second were playing like real decks, and then like the person in like table two was playing like Mimighoul, and I don't remember what the other person was playing. But I
Well,
had
then, of course, few people knew me from my locals. Like, oh, hey, step in. I'm like, no.
mm, uh I got to I made everyone just whoosh be quiet real fast when I jumped in and said, as per policy, as a spectator, I have to tell you, you can't do that. It is my duty
I loved it.
because what happened is one of the players immediately on entering their opponent's main phase, they're like, okay, as soon as you enter your main phase, I'm going to do that. I'm like, you can't do that. He's turn player. He has priority to do something first. As soon as he does something, then you can do that response. But he's turn player. Turn player has priority during each phase. So, uh,
What was he even trying to do that couldn't just be done on the standby?
Master has an effect that says that during your opponent's main phase, you can target a face down monster they control and change its battle position. So
Oh,
tried to do that as soon as the opponent entered main phase. I said you can't do that, and then because he didn't have his field spell out, the person playing against him just tribute summoned over the
yeah.
thing, and then just pretty much uh, made that whole strategy invalid. But it does say in policy that any spectator who witnesses something like that is supposed to speak up. So just keep that in mind. If you're spectating a game at any and you're watching and you're at like your locals and stuff like that, speak up because it is part of the policy that spectators are supposed to um and bring that attention. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it for whatever reason, maybe you're an
Call the judge
introvert.
over.
Yeah, call the judge over. It's in the policy to do so. So that's just uh thing to keep in mind when doing that. But uh the Blue Eyes structure deck got announced. It's coming out in February, and we got a lot of really good reprints in it. We got Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, and Nibiru, I believe. Those are the ones off the top of my head. The hand traps might be wrong. I'll look it up. But uh, Effect, all of those make sense in my mind, especially Effect Veiler because you can search Effect Veiler with Master. So uh, and I think it's good for new players and old players because you can just buy these structure decks and you have a good arrayment of hand traps and stuff like that. So buying three of the structure deck is a very beneficial thing.
Yeah, I think that that's a good way that they're going into the game. They're pushing it more towards giving access to hand traps players. I know I used to always say that poor people shouldn't have them, but at this point,
uh,
the game has gotten to the point where people need to know how to play with these cards. There are still a few cards that really shouldn't be printed ever, but
yeah. Well, I overall, all right. So I'll scroll to double check that that's the exact hand traps. Uh, right now though, I've play tested with some of the cards. Okay, I was right on the hand traps. I play tested some of the cards and like just kind of tried them out on various simulators. Uh, I don't ever plan on being sponsored by Konami, so I'll just say it. I've tried them out on Project Ignis. um, but uh, so I tried them out on Project Ignis, and without uh without King Calamity, it's like you're gonna make Cosmic Blazar, and that's about it. Like going first and going second, you can OTK pretty easy. You can also make Magia too if you're playing Chaos Max, but I don't play Chaos Max. It's on principle at this point. uh, but
almost lost to Chaos Max at one locals.
it admittedly it can do that. I was playing Labyrinth one time on Master Duel, and I didn't have anything for Chaos Max. Like none of my cards actually interact. I didn't and everything. I didn't have enough cards to interact with it. This is also before we got like big welcome and all that stuff. So there
Yeah,
was a lot less things and everything. It was like with Lovely, and you still maybe played Archfiend in the deck as like a one of, but like that was when I was trying it out, and I got just completely destroyed. So I put in Storming Near Force, but yeah, it it just completely like walled me, and I was like, oh, okay.
I guess
But
I'll have to make a Blue Eyes deck again and become the best Blue Eyes player again.
uh, well, come February, it's only going to cost you about $30 because you'll probably have all the other staples that would be expected for to play. Um, but
Probably own the deck.
yeah, but anyway, I think that the Blue Eyes deck is a good. It's good for the health of the game. It is weird. We didn't get a single structure deck in all of 2024 because the Fire King one came
That's
out.
fine though.
The Fire King one came out in December of 2023, and the and yeah, I it's just weird. Considering we got two in 2023, and we've been getting like two a year, throughout the whole for
Yeah,
a while. It's just
I think it
strange.
was fine this year because they released the products and stuff that get people back into the game. So I think that the idea is to push them towards buying that because they had those. Was it the beginning of this year they had that 110, or was that the end of last year where the one where it had all like the staples and stuff? And
It was last year they had 10 with some of the reprints, and then
oh,
in this year they had Rarity Collection 2. So
okay, yeah.
and Rarity Collection 2 was where a lot of the like big reprints were. We didn't have Thrust and everything, and that was like a point of contention for a lot of people. And all the hand traps got reprinted again in that, and people were like, "But we just got them in Rarity Collection 1." And I'm
It's
like,
not made for you guys. It's made for players coming back into the game.
yeah. So because in Rarity Collection 1 it's seen as like a very good set because it reprinted like a ton of relevant cards in all rarities. Rarity Collection 2 isn't seen as good favorably because while it did reprint a lot of the like staple cards, it didn't reprint as much. So that's like why. And then people were very disappointed with this year's tins, uh, because there's 400 cards in it. They don't come in like multiple rarities. They come in one, and you're pretty much not guaranteed to get anything because there's 400 cards. There's a chance that your secret rare could be a token. Um, which feels really
That's a
bad.
sharp poke in the eye. That's tough.
Yeah, which is a real feel bad moment. On top of that, there's like it did lower the price technically of SP Little Knight, and it did lower the price technically of Bonfire and stuff like that. But like it didn't do what people wanted it to, so people are upset about the tins, and I think it's kind of justifiable that they're upset because Wanted and Diabelles are still like $20 to $30 a piece. They're still like the same price tag as they were. They're not like going down as much as they want them to, and it is frustrating. And I think that like this year is like one of the years that it really feels like they didn't do their normal super aggressive reprint policy that they normally have. But I
Seems like this year they're just trying to let the economy go and they're trying to let the bubble expand before they burst it.
I know that I've seen people on Twitter upset that Molcharmi Pirellia is like $1 or $2 in the OCG, and over here it's like $50 a piece on the secondary market. But I told,
Yeah.
but it was printed as a common over there, and they have Max C, so they weren't predicting it to be like as relevant as. Well, they knew it was going to be relevant here, but like that's why they put it as a secret. But
Well, no, the big issue over there is that they print their sets like Magic does,
yeah,
where you have the ones that are non-foil, the foils, and we just go, nah, it's a chase card is basically going to be a foil most of the time. So it's a matter of printing differently. I don't think we're going to ever change because they can use that market against TCG audience, but I think with OCG they can't really use that audience because they'll just jump to another game.
oh, my lemonade went down the wrong tube. Drink some water.
But that, that was my opinion on that. So we can talk about Trooper now, or
Okay.
whichever.
Um. So my thoughts on Trooper after playing a lot of it is so overall I still think it's an okay format. I'm not as in love with it as I used to be, and I think it's because we played it enough to the point that we've gotten to a high enough skill level that it just feels like GOAT in like the worst way. Uh, it does have more skill expression in my opinion to play around some of the
Yeah,
broken cards. It doesn't feel as bad as sometimes when you play in GOAT. Because in my opinion, I don't like GOAT because delinquent duo is legal. And so like that's one of the reasons. Another reason is you got like power or you still got the like graceful charity and the pot of greed. And those cards feel just so way too like backbreaking to play against in GOAT. In
they
Trooper,
flipped the game on their head.
yeah, and while in Trooper, the cards that feel like they are unfun to play against is literally just brain control, snatch steal, like the brain controls and the snatch steal, and then crush card virus. Like those are like the really
Crush
big
card feels
hits.
awful sometimes.
Yeah, those are like the really big ones, and it's a fun format because I feel like I can just OTK out of nowhere and it has and sometimes the game goes back and forth. I love those. Uh I like that it feels like I found weird niche decks that if a tournament got held for this in Trooper, I think I could actually do well in it because some of the decks that like I put together, Stefan goes went wow when I first played it and everything. Mainly,
I had to really strategically play, and most of them I just lost. There's a couple of them where I was like, oh, I just lose.
one of which being Gravekeepers. I think Gravekeepers is very underrated that format because there's enough cards that just like rely on the graveyard. So like you can't play like Monarchs as well and everything. You can't play. Monarchs can still play through it, but it's hard because you don't get access to malicious or reviving
You
your
live on the back of your brain controls.
yeah, and that could be brutal to deal with. I played a Monarch deck whose whole goal is to rip apart the opponent's hand, game one, and that one works because it's just Monarchs with a few extra tech cards, and then you side into more regular Monarchs.
I think the worst part is that deck has the surprise factor.
Yeah.
Because once you kind of know what it's doing, you can be like, okay, I'm just not going to leave my hand to be killed. But then, like games two, you just put in the dust tornadoes and go, okay, now I'm just going to take them out of the equation.
Um, the last deck I played a decent amount, and Stefan's like, man, it's that it feels like as a person playing against Monarch, it feels like I'm in a losing battle most of the time. But from Stefan's perspective, he's like, this deck is still like kind of scary, and that's Dark World. Dark World, despite not having Grapha, is like surprisingly decent in that format, and like yeah, it's I've been messing around with like a lot of decks. I did Mausoleum Control or Mausoleum deck.
That thing just dies to virus.
I think dies to Virate, Crush Card. That thing dies to like just playing against an aggressive enough deck and everything because you need to keep your life total high. It is like kind of a work in progress, if anything. Trying to figure out like ratios and what to do, but it that deck is pretty rough. But it I think it has potential for a fun deck. Um, I could see justifying since there's more of even bigger card pool. In hat format would be kind of funny. Um, it would
Please
be
no.
it'd be bad still, don't worry, but it'd be really funny. Um, because hat's like fast enough that it's not gonna do the thing.
Yeah.
But we could talk about hat if you don't have anything to add about Trooper, other than
I don't have too much to add about it. I mean, I've been playing mostly the meta type decks and learning how to play the format pretty well, and it's uh it's very depressing because your power spells that you play, which I have a list right here. So here's a generalistic of your power spells in Trooper, by the way. I made this or this list because I'm going to try and find these cards and put a couple of the decks together.
hmm,
So your power spells are Heavy Storm, Snatch Steel, Premature Burial, Brain Controls. You have Confiscation. Um, Pot of Avarice feels awful. I mean, it's awful. You have Overload Fusion, you have Future Fusion, you have Giant Trunade, you get the Destiny draws, you can play two Rhoda, and then of course you have Machine Dude. Like,
there's also a heavy storm that you didn't mention.
yeah, it was the first one, Heavy Storm.
Okay. Um. Yeah. It has power spells. The strongest card in the format are spell cards, and then backed up after that, it's monsters and then traps. I would say, but traps are still good. Don't get us wrong. Traps are very, very good. Spell
You get
cards,
Ring of Destruction.
yeah, spell cards are still relevant. And everything like that, so relevant. Spelled and traps are so relevant though that I one time beat Stefan because I normal summoned just Cyber Phoenix.
Yeah, like I just drew spells and I was like, I can't deal with the Cyber Phoenix. And the thing doesn't remove itself if you target anything. No, it just sits there and goes, you're not allowed to do that. I'm sorry, I can't let you do that.
Yeah. I overall I think the format's fun. I just think some of the flaws of it is that it has a couple unfun cards. However, it did show me a card that I want to figure out how to use in more modern Yu-Gi-Oh. I just don't know how I would do it because it requires me to draw the card and it's a spell card. But I could also try it out in hat format as well because this card's at 3 and it's called Ruthless Denial, and what it does is you target a card, a monster you control, and send it to the graveyard, and then your opponent randomly sends a card from their hand to the graveyard. And it's a normal spell. It's not once per turn, and it's a very interesting card, and it's part of the Monarch like rip apart their hand deck. So, uh, I think it's cool. It probably should. There probably is gonna be someone who will eventually figure out that that card exists. Maybe from listening to our podcast, break it and then to get it banned or limited.
I didn't know the card existed, by the way. I was
Neither did
just looking
I.
at spells in Trooper format, and like I scrolled down, and like I think you were still in the call with me, Michael,
Mm,
and I went, "Hey," you're like, "What?" And I'm like, "There's this card called Ruthless Denial. Have you ever heard of it?" And you're like, "No," and I'm like, "Look it up and read it real quick."
that card is crazy. But we can talk about Hat now. Um, I think Hat is still fun. Hat itself, the deck Hat itself, is awful and boring.
It's an awful deck to play against.
It feels terrible to play against, and it feels bad in order like it kind of feels bad. Actually, it feels okay to play because it's so powerful that it everything just feels like pretty good. I was playing not Hat, but I was playing Spirits and Trap Tricks against Stefan, and once that deck got ahead, it stays ahead. Tries to he tries to catch back up, and then almost every time he'd set one, and I'd pop his back
Once
row
her
and
face
stuff.
trap trick, yeah, once her face trap trick is super powerful because a lot of your good stuff, at least in the decks I was playing, were traps.
Yeah.
So they were battle tricks. And the problem is he knew I wasn't running artifacts, so he could just keep blasting away at the back row and win.
Uh, there's also like a lot of decks, right? That so like traps are like a very powerful thing that format because we don't have any answers to them really. So like, and when you mix
Except for
trap,
when you draw two MSTs
yeah, skill
every
issue,
game.
skill issue. Anyway, but there's no real like good way to clear them out, and there's artifacts on top of it. So blind MSTing and like just firing off is like can be a death sentence depending on what you do and what you don't do and stuff like that. It's really like it's really feels really bad at times. Uh, Hat dies when Duelist Alliance releases though because it just power creeps like everything. But Denko
Your
Seka
chart
also
goes like
comes out.
this. The chart goes from this to just Jenko Seka format.
Denko Denko is pretty wild. Like,
It should all cited it.
yep.
Oh, they mained it too, didn't they?
Some one dude did.
Like you were just like Denko, you don't get to play with your back row anymore, and shut up.
It's very good. And Denko is just super powerful. So that's kind of what kills Hat. And what kills the combo decks that don't rely on traps and Hat is the fact that Shadows and Burning Abyss are just far and away better than every other deck. When Duelist Alliance comes out to like an insane degree, but
Your removal, your cheap removal, just becomes one for one, and sometimes it pluses the opponent while you're still negative. So it actually becomes a -1 to equal economy. And then you had to play stuff like Karma Cuts
mm-hmm,
and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. But the problem is those become effectively two for ones. And then if the card somehow gets itself replaced by another effect, then it just becomes a two for net zero on, it becomes a -3 almost.
yeah. Um, Another point about Hat, like one of the good points I will say about Hat format in particular, because we started talking about Duelist Alliance, but one of the best parts about Hat is there are enough decks in Hat format that you can just kind of brew and have fun with it. Uh, Fusions are relevant to a certain degree. Infernity is good, but that deck's hard to play, so beware. Mermail, I haven't tried Mermail in that one, and I'm kind of scared to because it has it's the one with Gen X controller in it, the old builds with controller in it, and I know that those ones weren't great. Um, I ha- we haven't played many Fire Fist, and I'm good at everything, but Sylvans were a good deck then as well, and so was Hat. Stefan plays Gear Gia gadgets and everything. Has a Gear Gia deck, and he has a gadget deck as well.
I have Chain Beat built as well.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot of cool decks, and what's cool about this format is is all the super broken cards are just gone. They're just gone. There's no hand rip cards. There's no stealing cards. There's except for mind control, but mind control is
Like
mediocre.
mind control is mid, but my favorite part about this format is the fact that you said this is Edison, but every single deck that operates in this format feels complete, so the power level of them is where I
Yes,
want it to.
exactly. So my issue with Edison is that Edison is a nerfed format where every deck is nerfed and everything feels bad because nothing feels powerful. Everything feels incomplete. Hat is a format where everything feels complete. Except for Bujin. Bujin kind of feels but they're a helmet deck. You summon
Put
Yamato,
your helmet on.
you play your back row and have a Kaiser Coliseum and tell your opponent to deal with it. That's completely different. But the other decks kind of don't really feel that bad, except for Hat Bujins and Mermails kind of do. But the rest of them though feel like complete decks and they feel powerful. They feel powerful enough that you can just sit down and just OTK your opponent if you get the right hand, or sometimes and it's slow enough that you can sometimes just set cards and pass the turn. It is that to me is what Edison should be. What people should think of Edison as, or what people think of Edison as, whereas Trooper to me is what people think of Go as. It's kind of it is kind of funny that both
We like two formats that are like better versions of
yeah
popular ones.
yeah I they are so Hat has a wild variety of decks that are good in that format. And if you're well, I don't want to play with Hat and everything like that, and I don't want to play against all those traps and everything, go back a format. Literally, go back one, and you can play them like Fire
Meadows,
Water,
right?
Meadows or Fire.
Oh, Firewatch.
It's like Fire Water, or Vegas. Those are the two that Format Library has. You play in those, and
Meadows is pretty fun too.
Meadows is right before Dragon Rulers.
I like Meadows.
Right. But yeah. Plus Hat format for me, I love it. I can play spellbooks. It's a nerfed version of spellbooks, but but spellbooks still feel strong enough that they can actually kind of fight through things if you're just a good enough player. So it's one of those things. It has everything I want in a format. For Hat. Uh, and that's kind of my point. I think Hat is a better Edison. Um, I think, and I think Trooper is a better Goat. I will say I brought this up before. We brought this up in the last podcast, and I'll bring it up now. I still think that Yugi Kaiba is an underrated format, but
Yeah, no, like that. Actually, I kind of feel like maybe after this podcast we put together type of tests again. It's been a while since we played a game of chess.
yeah, it we can try that and everything. Maybe we might record that one. We might not. You'll just have to see audience. Um, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
you want to. It'll be a boring video, by the way, because when we play that format, we're very quiet and just like playing every single. You know,
mhm.
I feel like it's a boring one, but
So yeah, if we so we've also talked about I'll give you a little preview. We've talked about playing similar to our Iron series. Well, not quite similar. Where we just pick one format and we just play it, everything for like every week that the podcast doesn't air. We've talked about that, and we might do that moving forward. Wait and see is all I'll say. I won't promise you anything, but I'm just saying that that's something we talked about. And if we do that, I'm telling you now, it's not gonna go in order. We'll probably just jump around to what sounds
We're gonna
fun.
grab fun formats, and that's how the Iron series came to be. Is we were playing the fun formats we wanted to, and then I was at work and I had this epiphany, and I told Michael about it, and
Mhm.
he was like, "Yeah, actually." He, I think, no, you mentioned something like that, and then I said, "No, here's how I would do it," and I explained it to you, and we both had that same, wavelength of making it.
Yeah, Iron Series pretty much came about of just wanting to play a mixture of wanting to play older formats, but not wanting it to be limited like a progression series. And I'm really glad about it because we kind of fall into the same trap as progression in like a different way. So progression series, the whole point is that they open up packs every single episode and everything, and they build a deck for, and it just gets added onto their collection. The problem with that is that they end up playing the same decks over and over and over again, and don't really get options to explore. I know they put in more bans this season and everything because I've been somewhat keeping up, but like the last like month or two, it's just hasn't really kept my attention as much as like some of the older ones do. But like it's it always feels like they keep playing the same like three decks. They just kind of run through them. Whereas while in our Iron series, we play one of us plays the same deck and the other one always moves on. So it's you know what to expect of it. Like it's whoever wins and everything. The previous episode is on the same deck, and then the other person moves on and everything. So it feels a little different, at least in my opinion.
Plus, it was something that seemed like it'd be fun.
It definitely seemed more us too. Instead of limited, we were playing like actually meta
Actual
relevant.
decks, because
Yeah.
I feel like meta relevant things are kind of what we do. I mean, Janky Yu-Gi-Oh means we only play meta decks.
It's a very
That's gonna
ironic
be a
name.
T-shirt one. This is gonna be on a T-shirt one day because people usually like. It's funny because people go, "Oh, you're Janky Yu-Gi-Oh. What Janky decks do you play?" And I just have to deadpan. No, I'm Janky Yu-Gi-Oh. That means I only play meta decks.
I like I do have a janky deck. I have like novels and stuff like that that I play, and I do like Ogdoadics and like some of the other like janky
I
decks.
have Paleozoic still.
But like I do love Tier Lament, and I do love like the really like powerful decks when they're fun. Sprite's okay. I don't like Sprite as much as Stefan does. Um, I like Ryzeal. I think Ryzeal's
I
really
kind
fun.
of want to buy the Ryziel deck.
I
Like
think
I watched you play with that deck, and I'm just sitting here going, "Oh man, he showed me another deck.
it's rank 4 sprites.
It's
It's the
rank
bet.
four sprite."
Yeah, but
Oh, I've referenced. Well, sprites don't lose to hand traps, do they? I'm like, oh no, we do.
yeah,
Sometimes you draw all the hand traps, and sometimes one hand trap stops you. Hand
uh,
traps are the biggest problem for sprite players.
one of the games I beat Stefan here when we were just playing our like best 2 out of 3 at that event. I beat him once, and it was because I Ash Blossomed starter on the draw phase. Like, you had to set 2 and pass. Like it
Oh
was
yeah, because I was looking at my hand, I was like, hand trap, set two. Oh yeah, okay, I lose.
yeah. It's just like Ash Blossom can stop the deck completely sometimes. Throw the Lock stops most Sprite players in their tracks. Um, because you actually start losing card advantage, and uh, unlike
Well, Charming makes me have to jump through some weird hoops that by the end of the hoop. My opponent goes, "Did you just summon a toad without letting me draw many cards?" Yeah.
Mm. If someone drops Molcharmi and Fualos on you, you're just gonna be like, well, I guess that's you're
I guess I'll just go to game two. Actually, not. If it is game two, I can punish them for that too.
mm,
Because if I'm going first and they drop those on me, I'm just gonna make a spell canceller and see if I can back it up with something and tell them to deal with
yeah,
it. A lot of times, mix spell canceller and put a back row down and have hand traps. People will just lose. Like
canceling.
spell canceller is busted, and then if they really play light types, like you can also bring out Arc Lord Christian's back. The cat is definitely a scammer. He will take your money.
I but yeah, I think Sprite is pretty interesting, and when it comes to hand traps, it's hard. It's hard to hand trap a good Sprite player though, because you can't really hold them too much. You have to kind of just fire them, and that feels wrong and everything.
It's kind of how I win a lot of matches against people that aren't you. Is they'll try and hold and hit the bottlenecks, and I'll be like, "You let that resolve. Okay, this comes out. Now you have to deal with this and this." Like with you, you just go, "Show me you have it."
It's correct. Sometimes, depending on the deck I'm playing, and our friend AJ was playing it with Tenpai. A lot of the time, I'll let you do it. I'll let you play out your whole board and not hand trap you, even if I have them, because I think because it's better because I'm gonna win because I can win through it anyway. And
That one game, he played it correctly. I just had everything. So
yeah, yeah, it just happens. If he had a monster instead of a terraforming there, he could have broke it, but he
yeah,
didn't. Um, so that's the that's that. I think it's kind of funny though because there's like one of the problems with Tier Lament was that like outside of specifically uh, DD Crow, Bestials, and Dimension Shifter, nothing stopped that deck. Ash didn't stop it because there's so many cards that are just gonna blast through it. Droll, you've drolled me so many times when we played our the Rising Tears and everything,
Droll
and
needs to be backed up with an interaction.
yeah, because you droll me and I went cool. I got my one search that I needed and just still made my exact board, and it's it's frustrating. Like Tier is one of those like it nothing can really stop it once it gets its wheels going for uh at full power. Current Tier, if it had Kit Close, it would probably be the same. Nothing's really gonna stop it, but overall,
Nothing's gonna bring it down.
I admit, but yeah, I think overall it's a Tier Element. It's not a great deck anymore. It's okay. It's not great. On Master Duel, it's still good because, well, actually, on Master Duel, it's not as good because they hit the planet. They like finished the deck off pretty much. They banned the planet, and they also banned Jowgen. And now I'm like, I don't know what to play. I can't. My consistency is like
It's,
dead.
but you watched the Worlds. Tier Limit was kind of a menace.
Oh, during Worlds on Master Duel, the tier limit games were like the best ones because you just blitz through. Because Jesse Cotton played through an 8 interaction board with and everything.
Yeah,
So
that that started to give me war flashbacks.
it was really cool. Just speaking of Jesse Cotton, he topped with Crystal Beast.
I'm just convinced he can top with anything.
It was Crystal Beast Fiendsmith.
I'm just convinced he can top with anything.
Yeah. Team Sam got first place at that YCS with Fiendsmith Ubel.
I mean, Probably just because his only competition. I'm kidding.
Nah.
Was playing Crystal.
No, they're admittedly, Sam is a pretty good player. It's
I
just
know he is great. No, I was saying like the only other person that could probably keep him in check is just like Crystal Beast.
Crystal Beast is surprisingly strong at times. There are certain hands that you get in Crystal Beast where it feels like nothing's gonna stop you from doing what you want. Plus,
Kill
like,
switch engage.
well, I don't think he was playing the kill. I think he's playing more
No, I don't think
Conclave.
that's correct. Yeah,
I think he's playing
Conclave.
Conclave control, where you just like bounce things properly and just time interaction right. But and you can play shifter in the deck, so like that's another thing. It's
I love it because that means people will start trying to play that deck online and realize that they're not him.
mm-hmm.
Because the thing is like you said, conclave control, that requires you to understand every single deck that you're going to face in the format and how to interact with it and stop them. Which means your average player who actually probably loves Crystal Beast, not making any insults, don't understand how to stop every single deck. Like just
Yeah, I will say the tournament attendance was worrying how low it was for a YCS. It was
what
like
was it?
400 and something in Cancun.
Where was that? Cancun?
Yeah. Cancun last year was like 900 players. So they were down 500 or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like that's at the end of the day, you could vacation to Cancun
Hmm.
and go play at a YCS still, and you're in Cancun taking a freaking vacation. Like they should be drawing in at least the 900 like last year. Yeah, no, like that.
It's
You know,
it's cuz this format is awful.
this is
Our
not
format
great.
our format is bad. It is. It's a bad format at the moment. It's not fun. Nobody likes playing any of the top decks outside of maybe like a couple people. To the point that I'm pretty sure that's the reason Jesse Cotton took Crystal Beast, Dean Smith, is because he probably was tired of Bell and Snake Eye because those decks aren't fun to play. They're very like they're very linear and they're kind of well Snake Eye is very linear. It's pretty like once you get the lines down, I've heard it's really easy. I just haven't taken the time to figure it out.
Most of the opponents I faced didn't look like they were having too much fun, and it was more like when I interacted with them and they couldn't go down the lines that they usually did. They looked like they were getting more frustrated and tilted. Like it's one of those well-oiled machines that you mess with something and they get off script just a little bit and it just starts. You can see their demeanor just get really frustrated and all this other stuff. I'm just sitting here like, well, that's not fun.
That's that's a good tell of that they are like an average player or lower. So one of the biggest tells for average like level players is the YouTube combo that they sat down and they memorized. If you stop it, um, and everything, they don't know how to play out of it like it or whatever. So like that's like a big thing and all that. Where I don't my
I've done some really, and you've seen them, some really stupid corner shots with the sprite deck.
oh
Just angle
especially
shoot and get it, and just like, and you're just seeing there like, and I just start going through the things and through the steps, and you're like, what are you doing? You're just wasting time. It's like, nah, I'll just watch. I'll get there, and then you finally get there. It's like, there we go. I win.
when you
Or
did the
I came
Fiendsmith
back.
when you were playing Fiendsmith sprite, there's that one where there's this really elaborate way you had to get through it because I like hand trapped you at all the right moments. That like you just like a really elaborate hoop you jumped through to end on the same board that you normally would, and you got there. It just kind of was a weird roundabout way,
I
and
know,
it
like you were like sitting there the whole time going, okay, and I'm just like, this does this, this does this, this does this. Don't do this, and you're like, wait, and then the board just starts looking the same.
yeah. Uh, I believe you burned through a little bit more of your extra deck than you normally would, but that was about it. Like,
I mean, the extra deck is there to burn through, though.
yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing that like extra decks are like our extra deck is the hardest thing to explain to people who play other card games. It is the thing that makes Yu-Gi-Oh the most unique. I would say is our extra deck and the fact we don't have like a resource system like lands or mana or anything.
The extra deck and life points are your resource system in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there's been many games where I could keep going for days with the deck, and I'm seeing they're going. I've burned through all the resources of the extra deck. There is no plays that gets me out of this. Like,
I think
it's
I think
almost worth it to play Avarice.
never worth it to play Avarice. Uh,
I
and
know.
it's at 3 in our current format, and no one plays it because it's not worth
I
it.
know. Just give me an in-theme searchable return sprites and extra deck monsters to the deck. I can be trusted with it. And let me draw 2 cards or something.
Give me a Heraldic Beast card that like on summon searches for something and it's like an extender everything that can special summon if you control a Heraldic Beast. On summon, uh, you could send one from your extra deck, and then get another effect. Send can be cost; it doesn't matter to me. And
Give me Sprite Elf. Give me Sprite Elf back.
give me Kit Kalos. I can be trusted. You can have Sprite Elf
But
back. Absolutely, give me Kit Kalos back too. While we're at it,
I know Tyr was the one that really abused Elf.
turns out, you know,
Oh, Stefan 2024 quote there.
milling 3 on the opponent's turn is very good.
No, I think that's awful.
I was just seeing if what that noise was. I think it was my dog just leaning up and scratching himself against my door. But
But
I think that's it. We've talked about pretty much everything we needed. I think we wanted to this podcast. We talked about Hat Trooper, the Blue Eyes stuff, our sneak peek experience, some funny stories, kind of the state of the game. So, if it is your birthday today, happy birthday. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, please. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.